Zen is a form of Mahayana Buddhism that is going to be introduced into Japan from China in the 12th century. It's going to focus on meditation as the primary key. Meditation is going to matter much more than reading, than text, than dogma, than tradition, and than ritual. Many people will actually seek a kind of flash of insight or realization, enlightenment itself during the process of meditation. The word for meditation is zazen. Along with the idea of meditation, in terms of aesthetics for objects and places and images that support Zen, there's going to be a stress on simplicity, a connection with the natural world. It's very intuitive. There's a stress on spontaneity and austerity along with simplicity, suggesting that influences and origins might come along with a blending from both Taoism and Shinto. Often when we talk about Japanese Zen, we often talk about Tao-inspired Zen, coming originally, in fact, from China. The image that we're looking at in the lower right-hand corner is Bodhidharma. It's a 19th century Oriental popular print, and it depicts the Indian monk who introduced the practices that will lead to Zen into China, who becomes a kind of legendary hero, in fact, coming to China and, according to tradition, meditating for a full 9 years without break before he became enlightened or aware. While he was meditating, he once fell asleep, and to prevent that from happening again, he actually cuts off his eyelids. From those eyelids, which fall to the ground, spring the tea plant, and it will be the tea plant which provides the caffeine to encourage monks to be able to meditate without, in fact, falling asleep. As I said, a legendary figure who helps to bring about the creation of Chan and ultimately of Zen, which is the Japanese version of Chan in China. This is a text from the Buddhist monk who wrote in a manual telling us how to meditate. I'm including it in the slides because I think that it's important to stress meditation as the core of Zen Buddhism itself. It also tells you how to engage in meditation. You settle your posture, you find a comfortable position, and then you focus on your breath. As you do that, eventually your mind is going to wander, but according to the directions, whenever that occurs, you just make note of it and then return to your breath. And as soon as you become aware of it, the thought is going to go away. It suggests also that by doing this, you will be able to find at the end of the text great ease and joy. This is at the heart of Buddhist meditation, Zen Buddhist meditation, where you simply sit and focus on your breath. By pushing away exterior thoughts, you will eventually create good discipline and habits for shutting out worldly concerns, and you will also certainly discover that it reduces stress in your life as well. So if you want to give it a shot in this period when PAFA is closed, I'm going to recommend that you follow the text that we have right here. Oh, we're now looking at two slides of samurai warriors, again, Oriental popular prints. The samurai followed a code of honor and dedication to a single master, duty and loyalty until death. About 10% of the population in the feudal period was actually samurai. So therefore, I think it's important to point out that the samurai are going to embrace Zen Buddhism. And the next thing to ask, I guess, is why? Why are the samurai warriors, the great warriors, embracing Zen? And we think the answer is that Zen Buddhism allowed the warrior to calm his mind and also to sharpen his focus, thereby making him a better warrior. Zen also requires incredible discipline, which would be important to a warrior. You have to practice meditation, you have to practice it daily in order to obtain the benefits from it. And this also would appeal to a samurai. You also learn Zen meditation from an individual teacher. So it's teacher passed to student, and this would parallel the dedication that a samurai would have to an individual master. Okay. In this particular slide, which is of the Golden Pavilion in Kyoto, Japan, I can make a direct link between the samurai and Zen Buddhism. This is a pavilion that was constructed by a shogun who retired, and he retired to become a Zen monk. This was part of the structural creations on his estate, on his property, and this was referred to as a kind of study or a private place where he could retreat to engage in private meditation. After his death, he had it, by his will, turned into a Zen shrine so that it would be preserved and protected for years and years after. I'm also including it just simply because it's knock your socks off beautiful. It has a graceful quality, a sense of lightness. It is an open structure. The building itself simply has wooden posts supporting it, so there's a sense of interior space becoming a part of the exterior natural world around it. Originally, it housed Buddhist relics, and it would have been considered to be a shrine, as well as originally a sacred spot for meditation that could have been used by our Zen monk. Okay. The first slide indicates that this was covered in gold leaf since 1955, and the reason for that is that in 1950, an insane monk entered the premises and actually torched this, and then he attempted to kill himself. He did succeed in destroying the structure. You can see the photograph upper left. He survived but will later die. He will be committed to a mental institution. The building itself was reconstructed according to tradition exactly the same way, very much the way we would find the shrine at Ise reconstructed. To purify it in its reconstructed form and to cleanse it of the attempt at suicide and the burning of the building, the upper two floors were actually gold-plated, giving this a kind of shimmering appearance on the surface of the water of the pond. It is now capped also by a phoenix. The phoenix is a Chinese symbol that references virtue and grace. It applies, or implies rather, happiness and prosperity. So now this newly born structure, gold-plated, is also conveying ideas of excuse me, of virtue and of the potential for prosperity. What I'd really like to focus on for this, however, would be the aesthetics of Zen, which are pretty clearly linked with Taoism that comes in with Zen from China. There is, as Mr. Riley will direct you, there's a sidebar in O'Reilly on Zen, page 172. He talks about some of the qualities of aesthetics for Zen Buddhism and the art that supports it, that there is a very great stress on simplicity and an emphasis on nature. For buildings, that means like this one, that we're going to find them blended into the natural environment, becoming part of nature, a suitable place to meditate and to be inspired by the natural world around us. This is an image of the Golden Pavilion in the winter, and I'm showing it to you quite simply because it is a gorgeous structure. I'd also like you to see its lightness, its openness, its engagement with nature, in particular the porch that allows upper left and lower left for the person inside to go out into the landscape and actually sit and ponder, perhaps meditate on the natural world. Okay. As we leave the grounds of the Golden Pavilion, we can encounter a statue of the Buddha, very worn, surrounded by two bodhisattvas. These small statues are located on the ground, and individuals are continuing to leave offerings, very much as you would at a Shinto shrine. If you look closely, you can see the coins that are on the ground. Also, as you leave, is a slide that I've used before. It's of this most awesome waterfall, and I use the word awesome because I do believe that you could associate it quite easily with Shinto notions of kami. It is deeply possible to blend together traditions of Buddhism and Shinto at exactly the same place. Zenga is the word that O'Reilly uses to describe art of Zen, and that would include the dry gardens that we're going to be taking a look at. He gives us 520, that's the one at the top right. These are created with what I call artful artlessness. Very carefully composed, but intended to look incredibly natural. They are also creations that are created specifically for the purpose of meditation. O'Reilly's aesthetic principles apply here. Austerity, simplicity. We use weathered objects, worn rocks, and gravel, and boards, portions of trees, all suggesting the passage of time and our connection with nature. Some of these are intended to be viewed from the sides only. Others can actually be entered, but all of them would be used as if a vision of meditation, something to look at as we were beginning the process of meditating. And often these landscapes, and in miniature, and many of these are actually quite small, many of these are intended to represent the entire world, so that we see, for example, the water being suggested by the stones on the ground and the rocks perhaps suggesting the mountains. The individual meditator would determine the vision that he was going to see as he examines his very, very small image suggesting the entire universe or world. Okay. This is a detail of the one that we have in our rally. I like this because it shows you a little bit better the scale that we're looking at, suggesting that it is small in size. Why would we meditate like this? Because it would help us to achieve a closeness with nature, and also perhaps an understanding of our importance within our place within the cosmic order. Okay. These are two more. Again, we can apply some of O'Reilly's aesthetics. Very suggested form. This is not a clear depiction of an oceanscape with mountains and perhaps hills and trees arising out of it. It also has a simple form that has an underlying complex meaning that we could come to understand through meditation. The slide on the lower left is a moss garden. It is very similar in terms of its use. There would be paths. You would not be able to walk on the moss, but you would be able to wander in nature, and if you wished, to meditate. Okay. Vastly different. The dry garden on the left is Japanese as opposed to some of the formal gardens associated with Versailles. Very, very different in terms of our relationship with nature. The dry garden, asymmetrical, very small in scale, very informal. The structure at Versailles, very controlled, very symmetrical, and very much a world that is very clearly ordered.